They must have sown this garden. It was above Sennen Cove,
All right.
along Mariah's Lane, and his first memory, and I was pushing along a wooden horse on wheels amidst this absolute riot of, I think there were poppies and cornflowers and marigolds. Tiny thatched cottage with no windows and a sort of platform for sleeping.
Right. So
And-
really primitive.
Yes,
as a
and
place.
you know that they
made of-
didn't save it, Cara. I must have been the last left in
Yes,
Cornwall.
isn't that's so sad, isn't it?
She was known as Old Gracie.
Oh.
My grandmother always, when they came down, used to take her tea. The first year we was relations, we heard these cries as we went into the cove from our cottage, and there was old Gracie on her back in the bramble patch. She was tiny. She must have masses of petticoats and things on, I think, because she was just like a ball, really. And of course they clutched her. I was all for taking off the opposite direction because I thought she was a witch.
Yes.
I was 7 then. Mary is made of stronger stuff. We pulled her out. Ever after that, when she saw us, she used to say, "You're the 2 little maids that pulled me out of the brambles then."
Aw.
We never wore shoes in the summer.
No.
And we used to walk over the moorland with all that gorse and things, in bare feet, carrying the dog, who simply would. We'd been brought up in the summer you didn't need shoes.
That's right.
And I can remember when I was in my 50s, I used to dispense with shoes. This director of a mining company was a friend of my father's coming to visit. And he said, "Well, when you were a very little girl, I can remember you with no shoes, and here you are still without shoes." We used to go with the aunts to the beach all day. And it was a tiny cottage, and all my grandmother had to cook was a oil stove, and she had to walk from the cove all the way up to Churchtown and get the food for 7 or 8 people with her hands and feet crippled with arthritis. And nobody thought of her daughters, did anything. My aunt had the car in the cove, and we'd have been delighted to
Yes.
help. Once every summer, she'd get Minnie George, who had the adjacent cottage, to do us pasties, and they were gorgeous. There was a running battle with Gran and Minnie, and when Gran had upset Minnie, she used to heave stones through the window. In between whiles, they were quite amicable. It was when the rates came, I remember Gran taking them into Minnie to say, "Look, just had the rates, how much are yours?" And Minnie George saying, "Give them here to me, missus," she said, and chucked them in the Cornish rain. So they must have bought that cottage when I was born. Nearly the whole of the village had belonged to the parson of Sennen.
Right.
And when he died, of course, all sailed up. She had this little legacy from her father. I did to buy this one, and I think hers was £25. That was the fish cellar and the cottage and the little bit of garden. And there always used to be a lot of French crabbers in those days, the sailing ones.
Yes. So
With those lovely sails. They were lovelier, the hull shapes, than ours, I think. Mad Annie, well, she was actually a lunatic. In fact, she was affected by the phases of the moon. And when she passed the cottage, she always had a chat if we were around. She looked at Tish. She said, "That little maid, she's old enough to help you now," she said, "and if she'd break the clone, you turn her up and beat her and she won't do it no more." And Tish was absolutely outraged. During the war, my aunt was at Sennen, and Mad Annie, in one of her lunar things, she shaved her head. She was an old woman then. And when it came back, it was black curls.
And all those lovely little tiny gardens on the cliff.
Yeah, with the bulbs
Yes.
and potato pan. So our neighbour at Escort, Sennen, they used to have to pay Lord St. Leaven Estate 10 shillings a year for this tiny thing on the cliff edge.
10 shillings a
Well,
huge
10
amount.
shillings was because,
Yes, that's right.
you know, even to get the rent for their little farm,
That's right, it was a
you
struggle.
was sitting there waiting
Yes.
for the hen to lay. We only went to Sennen Cove in the summer, but this time we went at Easter as well for the school holidays. And there was a storm came up, and the fishing fleet all managed to get in but one. So the wife had, you know, small children, and everybody stood round the next morning looking and looking, and there she was with apron over her head, weeping away, and suddenly he comes round the headland, leaning against the mast, smoking a pipe. And everybody was so furious.
Did you garden when you were a child? I know your mother sometimes.
No, well, she was terrific, yes. And of course we were too small when she went to India to garden. The house we were in was the head gardener's house from
Oh,
when
was it?
it was the Carnegie Manor. She planted it all up.
So all that was going inside you.
I think it's in the blood, you know.
I think it's in the blood.
Because the only thing that she and I ever had in common was our love of gardening. Her father was the same. With our in India, we weren't allowed in the house. And that first winter with our relations, we had to spend the whole time in the garden shivering. Because we were only allowed in for meals and to sleep.
So when did things get better? When your mother came back?
My mother came back for 2 years when I was 12
And was that
to settle
easier?
my older sister.
And was that easier?
Oh, that was heaven.
Yeah.
It really was, you know, like,
And then you flowered, presumably.
yes,
You
I
could
even had a little garden.
Ah,
Because, you know, the Liddon estate
Yes.
between Newlyn and Penzance.
yes.
She'd rented one house there for the 2 years.
So you had your first little garden.
Lovely fertile land, some of the most, because they used to dump stinking fish
All right.
on
Brilliant.
that land.
Yes.
The ones that, you know, it was a big catch and they couldn't
Yes.
sell some.
That's right.
And they used to spread it over this bit of
So
land.
you must have...
We actually got pocket money, a thing we'd never had. And the first thing I bought was a white violet.
Did your mum, was she the kind of person who would show you how to do things? Mine wasn't.
No.
No, she just got on with her things.
Yes, she was much better than the
Yes.
claustrophobic provincial
Yes.
middle class of the time.
Yes. And in some
I
ways...
mean, she travelled so much.
Yes. Did your mama... She went back.
She went back, yes.
And then
But it wasn't nearly as bad, the last
No.
bit, because I mean, when I started I was 7, but when I finished I was 16. So
Yes.
you can cope much better.
Yes.
She and my father had fought all through their childhood, because she was the spoilt one of the family.
Right.
And my father wasn't tolerant, so he was teasing her one dinner time, and she picked up the plate with the meal on it and threw it at his head.
She didn't.
And he ducked, and of course it smashed on the wall beyond.
Golly, what an amazing girl.
Yeah.
So then there
So
was a
he
proper rumpus,
got
I
hold of one
presume.
of her dolls and cut off all its hair. And then he had a thing of conscience. So he went round collecting off the barbed wire sheep's wool and made it a new wig.
Oh no, how adorable. So he was handy with his...
Oh, he was yes, he made her lovely doll's house.
He didn't.
Yeah.
I hadn't realised that. So that comes through your father, that creative...
Yes,
thing.
and he made absolutely all the furniture, beautifully upholstered little leather armchairs,
just
and
like you.
dining table and
That's-
things, and the kitchen had all these miniature tiny little copper saucepans and frying pans and things made out of melted down brass from the end of cartridges.
No.
Yes, we used to make.
No wonder you're so brilliant.
And the handles riveted on these absolutely pinhead rivets.
I'm thrilled, Audrey, to learn about your father's gifts. I remember once you were telling me that you made those marvellous little wooden toys.
Oh, that was, yes, that was when I came. I decided no way could I function as a interior designer in London. I couldn't deal with people.
No.
It was too much stress.
No. So had you thought of doing that at one time?
I trained for that.
Did you? Did you? All right. I didn't know that.
Yes. At the Central. I'd been to Penzance Art School.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And I'd got, all these certificates and things and a folio of work. And you had to take it to the
I see.
Ministry of Education to get a grant.
Nervous.
And that, you see, then there was nobody there that hadn't been in the forces.
Yes, I see. Yes.
We were all ex-service.
Yes. Yes. When you were in the Penzance School, did you enjoy that? Did you?
I loved it.
Loved it. Yes.
Yes.
You were so lucky. So how old were you when you went there?
Just 17. There was several other, full-time ones. And they were all friends. I'd known them at the school. But they weren't my friends. And then this little boy, well, he was a 14-year-old, came. His family had come from Chelsea. His mother wrote popular novels. And his father was a poet and had lost a limb in the Spanish Civil War. So this child comes in, and he was wearing short pants, green corduroy, I remember.
Bless him.
Yes,
So
it was
was he
rather
the butt?
tubby.
And so was he the butt?
So some of the girls, were sitting round. So one of them said to him, "What's your name?" So he said, "Charles Edward Stuart Murdoch Jervis." So they said, "Oh, evacuated Ernie." So that's what he was known.
Oh, evacuated Ernie.
So we became great friends.
I was going to say, was he very nice?
Yes, he was much more congenial.
Yes. Then going forward to the Central, did you enjoy that?
I
Loved it.
Well, no, I didn't love the Central. We were just posted around the place. Nobody knew what to do with us. Clear waste as far as the training went, but very congenial company.
So then when you realised you went into that kind of business thing, you made exquisite little toys.
Yes, you see, I'd had 2 breakdowns already.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, what I've got to do is to take the stress off. So then I came back to Cornwall to think about it and decided I could do it. I've been thinking, and my mother and I had gone to my grandmother's cottage in the Cove. Of course, we both loved Sennen Cove. You had to share this double bed, because that's all there was. So one morning I said to her, "What do you think about we're coming back to Cornwall and making wooden toys?" And she said, "Oh, what a good idea, dear." I did a winter's flower picking, or season picking. And there was this young, a 19-year-old, and this much older man. We all got on terribly well, and traipsing up and down the rows we chatted, and when I left in the spring he paid me the nicest compliment I've ever had.
Oh, Audrey.
The older one. He said, "You're the best old maid we've had here. You was hard working, obliging and social."
And social.
Well, nobody had ever called me social.